You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Ellie Garcet. What's up, Ellie?
How are you, Craig? I'm doing great. Today's my wife's birthday. We're gonna go celebrate after this. How are you doing?
Oh, nice. That's amazing. We'll tell Britt I said happy birthday, and I'm doing great. Are you having a bad hair day on her birthday, or what's the deal with the hat? Or is that just the style of the outfit?
Thanks for calling me out, Craig.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I know why you wear a hat.
Yes, I am having a bad hair day. I need to go fix this mess after this.
Yeah, there you go. That's amazing. What are you guys doing for her birthday?
Well, I guess I can say it. She's not in the house anymore. She's always wanted to do that like pottery wheel thing, like test that out. She's so artistic and I'm so not. So I already gave her presents, and every year she loves her funfetti cake with the funfetti frosting. So I'm going to bake her a cake, and then we're going to go spin the wheel thing, whatever you call it. I'll send you some photos after we're done and see how disastrous it went.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. That's something that my wife really wants to do too. Grace, she wants to go to a pottery class, but they're always, the ones that we find are always like multiple days. So it's like, we painted some pottery a couple weeks ago, which was fun. And it's gonna be a blast.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and speaking of blast, Caleb Drake here is about to blast off his business because he's right at the point where he's about to scale, and it's kind of cool to hear his story because he's not at scale, which a lot of people that come on are, and he's also not a beginner, which a lot of other people who come on the show are. He's really in that like sweet spot, almost at an inflection point of like, okay, he's scaling back. He is going to build some good systems out so then he can kind of like launch that arrow forward, but he's just like pulling it back right now. And I think it'd be fun to get him on again, maybe in a couple of years, and see where that arrow has landed if we're going to keep the metaphor going.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that he started with his own VA loan, personal, and then he started partnering with others. Well, first he started partnering with one, and then he was like, hey, partnerships work. I have 50% of something as opposed to 0% of nothing, 100% of nothing. So then he got 2 more partners, and he's investing locally and out of state in multiple states, and he's a realtor, and he's a Air Force. Yeah, he's doing all the things. And so I'm excited to see where he's going to go as well.
Yeah, really, really good episode. Make sure you listen to the end. And if you haven't already, guys, please drop us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps us out tremendously. It helps you out tremendously by having us be able to get more and better guests on the show. So drop us a note, and then also hit us up on Instagram once you do, because we love getting those messages. With that being said, let's bring Mr. Caleb Drake onto the show. This episode of Investify was brought to you by the Fi Team, a team of investor-friendly agents that service all 50 states. If you are looking to house hack, to invest, grow your portfolio, and want a true investor-friendly agent on your side, go to thefiteam.com and click Get Started, and we can't wait to have a good conversation with you. Caleb Drake, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, dude?
Doing well, Craig. Allie, how are you guys?
Good.
I am doing good. I totally thought for a second that you were Shelby's husband, Drake, but you're not Shelby's husband, Drake. And
don't put that burden on me.
Yeah, you're Shelby's protege or someone somewhat related to her. But yeah, man, tell us, Caleb, like, where did you first hear about financial independence, and how did you first get started in it?
Yeah, I would say I first kind of heard about financial independence probably like the early months of like 2020. But I was kind of already working towards that for like 4 or 5 years. I just didn't really hear about the movement until then. And that's when I kind of started tracking my net worth, trying to actually, push my net worth and my passive income higher around that point.
What do you mean you were working on it before you heard about the movement? Like, how did you know what to do or where to go?
Well, so I was investing. I'd never really heard of financial independence per se, but I always knew that I didn't want to be poor. Kind of grew up not with a lot of money, so I wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to be the way that I lived the rest of my life. So I started investing in stocks and things like that when I was, a newer guy in the military. Didn't have a lot of money, but as I started to kind of gain rank, and then when I commissioned in 2015 was when I kind of realized that you could, save and invest and work your way to a point where you may not have to work anymore after retiring from the military.
Yeah. Did that come from any like books that you read or anything like that?
No, honestly, I wasn't really, I never jumped on like the, Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of like train until actually I think I already owned 4 or 5 properties and then I read it. So it's like everybody keeps talking
Oh,
about it.
wow.
I just kind of like, I just had always had a drive to where I just didn't want to be poor.
You were just doing it.
So, what led you? So, it sounds like you knew at first to invest in the stock market. I suspect you was just like index funds and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, some gambles and lost some money and then I just kind of started investing more into ETFs and index funds. And then I still have, some larger blue cap stocks and then some gambles too. I invest heavily in cannabis stocks. So I'm just hoping that that one day will be my retirement.
Will pop up. Yeah. Hey, I think a lot of people are doing that. I mean, I feel like at this point though, there's probably winners and losers. Like, are there clear? Because it's been like 10 years since cannabis has been legal, and like at least in Colorado and Washington, which was like the big deal. Um, are there still movers and shakers where like companies like or the good ones here to stay and
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know who's going to be here to stay. It's the market's kind of taking a hit, obviously, like everything else. But I think just keeping dollar cost averaging into the projects and the companies that you truly believe in is kind of the way that I'll continue doing that. I focus more nowadays on real estate and on other ways to make passive income versus the stock market. But I still hold at least a little portfolio in the stock market.
Nice. So how did you start making that switch from index funds to real estate and why?
Yeah, so that would have been after I bought my first house, and I kind of realized the power of real estate. So I bought that house on a VA loan. I just came from Pensacola to Hurlburt Field over in the Panhandle of Florida. Just kind of moved 30 minutes away, and I bought my first house, and then I immediately started house hacking it. And I started renting out to a roommate. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that term. I just knew that I didn't want to pay my own mortgage, and so
Yep.
I rented it out. I did all the wrong things. I didn't have a lease agreement. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff, and but I did see the potential that you could make in real estate there. Um, Fast forward about a year and a half, she moved out, and I started renting my house out on Airbnb while I was deployed. And so that would have been probably early 2018. And that was around the time when there wasn't a ton of inventory and didn't need to do a lot of special things. So I took all my personal belongings off the walls and threw them in my owner's closet, which was my master bedroom, and then rented my house out for the 3 months that I was deployed. And that's where I really realized that like you can make money in real estate.
wow.
Nice.
And so, Allie, you know what this kind of sounds like?
This sounds like the
For
for
real
The for real deal.
deal.
deal. Boom, boom. Caleb, so this is the first deal that you've ever done, intentional or unintentional. And so yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about this first deal?
Okay.
It was sounds like you bought it with the VA loan. It sounded like you were almost like an accidental landlord on this. And yeah, so tell us like what you bought it for in 2018, where it was, how much you put down, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So it was a VA loan, so I put zero down. I bought it for $229,000. There was like a $450 a year HOA, and then I kept that house until 2021 when I sold it for $364,000. I net about 100,000 on that deal, a little bit over, and then that helped me build my new primary home, and it helped me to actually fix this house up, or rebuild the house that we have, and then to buy 2 more properties as well.
Amazing. So it sounds awesome that you leveraged your first deal into the second, but let's get a little bit more into that first deal. Do you remember what your mortgage payment was on that first one and what your average rent was when you were Airbnbing it and stuff like that?
Yep. So my originally as a long term, I my mortgage is around 1,200 PITI, and then it's like I think 1,239 to be exact. And I rented out a room for around 650, so I was paying a little under half of my mortgage at that point. And then we
Nice.
split utilities as well, so that worked out. So it's like half of what it would have been if I would have lived there by myself. And then when she moved out, I was only able to rent the house out probably 6 months of the year because I was only deployed for around that time. And so I was on a schedule of like 3 months gone, 5 months home, 5.5 months home, and then another 3 to 3.5 months gone. And so I started renting it out like that. And the first time that I did it, I was actually overseas in the Horn of Africa, and I made around $7,000 on it in those 3 months, maybe, and that was net. I think I made 10, and then I net about seven. And so
Nice.
that was kind of when I saw the power of one short-term rentals and the power of real estate in general. And I took that money, saved it, and then bought my second deal, which we can talk about.
Awesome, man. Don't you miss those days on Airbnb when you could literally just like throw up your listing and get it booked? Like,
Yeah.
I remember my
Yeah.
first listing, I had not a single picture on the wall. I didn't even like tuck the sheets or blanket into the bed. I had like an American flag $30 like comforter from Amazon. And like I got tons of good reviews. My desk was falling apart. Like it was comical when you look at the pictures now. And that thing made me like a really good amount of money. But these days that wouldn't get booked in a second.
No, I actually
Damn.
still have that listing in my portfolio, like or my profile, because if I delete it, I lose all of my reviews, and so I just see like how bad it is when
Oh.
I log in, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that we're past those days.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I didn't realize that if you deleted a property, you would also therefore delete those reviews. That's a good tip.
Yeah, don't quote me on it, but that was what Airbnb had told me.
Okay. So you are spending time overseas deploying, TDYing with the Air Force and then coming back. I presume all of your personal belongings are in this house that you're opening up to strangers. Is that right? Or did you put your shit in a storage unit?
So I put a deadbolt, a double key deadbolt on the garage so nobody could get in, and then I put a deadbolt on the master bedroom closet, and that was kind of where we put
Mm.
everything. Anything that was like super valuable, I stored at a friend's house, but for the most part, yeah, everything was there, and I would just take it out of those spots, put it back, and live in my house like normal for a couple of months, and then rent it out again.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That's what I was going to ask is like how did you feel comfortable with, being countries away, not just like states away and opening up your personal residence because a lot of people have that fear, a lot of people have personal belongings and they have an emotional attachment to their home or, whatever it is and they don't want just anybody just willy-nilly sneaking into their room and whatnot.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do also with kind of, being in the military, you're used to being uncomfortable and living with people that you don't know. Every time I deploy, I would deploy with a different group of guys. And so, I
Yeah.
have to readjust every time. And so this really wasn't any different for me. It's just the pain of having to put the house back together when I got home.
All right, man. So I think this is a really easy, good way for anyone, especially in the military, to get started. Of course, with the VA loan and when you deploy and et cetera, et cetera. But like house hacking doesn't have to be this like super intentional thing. A lot of people kind of stumble into it, which is kind of what you did. And so, but it sounds like you kind of leveraged that house hack to buy more. Was that your next move in 2021, or did you do things between 2018 when you bought your first one and 2021 when you bought, two and three or whatever?
So I may have misspoke, but I bought my first house in 2016, and then around 2018 was when we did our second deal. So I did about a year and a half of it was 2019 when we bought our second deal. So I did about a year to a year and a half of renting my house out. I think it was like three iterations. And on the last iteration, I actually rented another house so that I could rent my house out. So I rent out full time for a year, and then that helped me even paying that extra rent. I was still able to cash flow enough to buy another property with a partner, and that was where I kind of started leveraging partners. And we bought a second Airbnb, and that one I would call that my first like purposeful deal, like intentional deal, I guess. And that one is still cash flowing tremendously for us.
Nice. Let's dig into, well, before we dig into partnerships, I want to ask what did the reason that you sold the first property that you sold, was that to like on purpose to acquire other properties, like taking advantage of the market?
It's actually kind of a bittersweet story that uh, we don't have time to get into the details on, but I had found out that that property had a lot of water issues and it flooded in Hurricane Sally, and so we had about $100,000 flood claim on the property, and so we
Mm.
remodeled the property and then we put in. I was actually the selling agent or the listing agent on the property, and so I was going to at the end of the sale I escrowed about $40,000 to put a pump system in to pump water away from the house so that that wouldn't happen to the next guy. And so that was kind of part of why I didn't net as much. If you kind of run the numbers in your head, when I bought it for and sold it for, I just didn't net as much because I put that much money into the property to do that. But I sold it because I knew I had the equity, the flooding issue, and then also we were building our dream home. The fiance and I were building a dream home, and so I wanted to fund that with some of that money as well, and then buy a couple of properties. So I knew I had the capital locked into that property instead of refinancing. I just wanted to get rid of it.
Nice. Okay. And then so you sold your own property as an agent. At what point did you
Mhm.
get your realtor license?
So I got my realtor license in March of 2021, and we sold that property around July of 2021. It was actually my first listing, so I was my own focus on myself essentially, and then I sold my neighbor's house across the street, and then I sold two or three more in the neighborhood. So, but yeah, that was kind of where I bought. It was my first listing, but I had sold a couple other properties as a buying agent as well.
Nice.
And so, okay, so why don't we talk a little bit about kind of like, you mentioned you started doing this yourself for the first couple of deals, but then you saw partnerships as the way to kind of actually grow and scale. And so tell us a little bit about like how you came across partnerships. How do you find the right partner and what you think about all that?
Yep. So again, the theme of the day is doing it wrong the first time and getting lucky. I've had my best friend from college. He had kind of seen what I was doing, and he had some extra money, and was like, "Dude, I want to buy a house." And we both kind of grew up similar income level with our family, very blue collar, and none of us had bought houses until this point. I was like, "Well, dude, like I got some money, you have some money, like let's just do it together. We'll buy in my market because it's a short term market, and I'll manage it, whatever." And so we bought that house and did that. And then COVID hit about 4 months, I think, after we started renting it out. We got it live in November of 19. And so 5 months later, the world shuts down. And so we kind of had to pivot a little bit. Luckily, we had a month-to-month renter that was military that couldn't find anything due to kind of the craziness. And so we just put him in there for a few months until he found something and until everything kind of figured itself out in Florida. And so during that time, we started to take some of the extra money from our W-2s. This partner and I, his name's Josh. So Josh and I started buying some properties in the Midwest, mostly long-term rentals, and actually all long-term rentals, and they were some multifamily and some single family. And that was where we just kind of decided that the partnership was a good way to go. And then we started really diving into like actually establishing, partnership responsibilities, et cetera. And that happened probably over the next 2 to 3 years. And a lot of it was, happenstance of seeing things that didn't work, but still having, a good enough friendship that like we could get through that and then figuring out the way to both, agree on how to do it correctly.
Yeah. So how do you guys divide up the roles in the partnership? And at what point did you like, finalize it? Do you have like an operating agreement and all that?
Yeah, so we have operating agreements, and those change depending on kind of the property and depending on how much each person is going to be kind of taking participation in that property. For instance, I do a lot of the short-term stuff here, in Pensacola. We've got a short-term in Pensacola and a short-term in Navarre, and which are, they're 30, 40 minutes apart from each other. But I'm located right in the middle. And so I kind of manage anything that happens with the property, and then he manages the operations, and I do financing and acquisition these days. And so since I'm already an agent, I kind of understand that market. I understand off-market deals, et cetera. I'm able to kind of take over acquisitions for with scaling, and then he takes over most of the operation stuff. He has a little bit more of a demanding military job, so I have to fill in a little bit here and there while he's gone, or he does a lot of stuff in vaults and things, and so we kind of both manage a little bit of like the guest interaction if needed, but I try to give all that to him.
Awesome. So, what do the numbers look like on some of your deals here that you've done with the partnership, and how might they differ versus doing it by yourself?
I would say that to answer the second question first, it's nice to have a partner when you don't have a ton of liquid capital starting out. So, if you have somebody you trust and you want to get into a deal, instead of, you know, you can do some kind of creative financing if the sellers are willing, but most of the time they're going to want, especially if it's an MLS deal, they're going to want their 20% down, standard conventional loan. So it was nice to have a partner to be able to bring some of that capital to the table, and then also to help out with anything that comes up, both with expenses and with things that happen. Like our water heater went out on Thanksgiving and our first Airbnb a month after we opened it. So,
Mm.
having somebody there to help with that, and those kinds of things are great for partners. It also, the back side of that is the other side of that is that it cuts into your cash flow, right? Instead of netting 25, 30 grand a year on an Airbnb, now you're splitting that between partners. And so that could be each person makes 10 off of 30 if you have two partners, or each person makes 15, or, you come up with an agreement. Josh and I both have pretty high W-2s, so we don't take any money out of the business. We're just completely 100% invested in keeping it this like scaling the business and for the next 5 years is our goal. So 2028 is kind of when we'll probably start pulling income because that's when we'll both retire from the military and when they actually need it.
Nice. Dang.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. And so, like, there's that one side that you said where it kind of cuts into your cash flow, but like without the partner, would you even be able to do the deal, right? Like, did you both bring in half the down payment? Like, did you have that cash to do the deal, or would you actually just be sitting on $0?
Yeah, it would either be half or none at that point in my life, right? I would have never been able to buy that house. I wouldn't have had the confidence to buy that house, that second house, and I just I wouldn't have the money when I didn't have the know-how to do creative financing or bring in private money, etc. Where I've learned that over time, and so transition into some other deals that are more current. Like now I have a couple of other partners that I've two or three different business partners for different deals. And I've got one guy that has helped me this capital business and with his creative financing or his seller owner financing stuff. And so he'll actually do private money for me. And then just
Mm.
takes anything we leave in the property after we're doing a lot of bird deals that way. And anything we leave in the property is his money. I do all the work. He puts down the money and we split everything 50/50. So on those deals, I'm bringing nothing to the table.
That's amazing. It's amazing how more partnerships lead to more partnerships, which is kind of like I wanted to ask you, like, how do you kind of keep your partnership in, I guess, how do you stay in alignment, right? Because you guys have now been partners for a few years and you're intending to be for a few more years, and, things change, right? And so, do you guys meet weekly, or is that too much? Or,
Yeah, so with all three of my different business partners, we meet on the weekend for like an hour. Sometimes it turns into a little bit longer, sometimes less, but I've got time blocks for all of those businesses to meet. And then it's just constant communication. I mean, when you're running a business with someone, you're communicating with them anyways. But if there is friction points, just like, bringing that up and just being adults about it. Everybody kind of tiptoes around problems. A lot of times they don't want to discuss it. And there's been times where I'm guilty of that as well. But, finally coming and saying like, hey man, I'm drowning in work. I'm doing 70%, you're doing 30. Like I either need to be compensated for that or we need to go 50/50 on it. And having those tough conversations is I think it's healthy for businesses and for partnerships and even for friendships at that point. I've got these all three of my partners are friends of mine from a few years, etc. So it's like they kind of know we have good ideas of our personalities and how we react to certain things.
absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think, the answer to a lot of those problems is just communication and not being afraid to have hard conversations, like you said. Um, Okay, and so now I guess like so just kind of a quick recap, right? So 2016 is when you bought your first place. Um, you bought your second place 2018. Is that right? And then you
Yep.
started selling them off in 2021. Use those proceeds to then scale and grow into this kind of more of this partnership type thing with your buddy.
And I bought a couple houses like long terms on my own as well. But my 2023 goal is to create 3 partnerships and buy 15 long-term rentals and 3 more short-term rentals.
Okay. And so what is
Oh,
your like why that mix of long term and short term?
The long term, I like the passive side of it, so I don't have to do as much. But I also thoroughly enjoy the short term rental space, and I really like being a host, and I really like designing properties, and so that is more for my own personal satisfaction on that side. And the short term markets are normally higher appreciation, so that's nice. Where our long term rentals are in the Midwest, and so we don't have as much appreciation, but we do have good cash flow, and so it's kind of a mix of both. If you bring in cash flow with the appreciation on other properties, it's going to be quicker to be financially independent that way, in my opinion.
We hope this episode is inspiring you to take action. If you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or an agent who wants to join an investor friendly team, just hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, because we are growing our team in Denver, Seattle, San Diego, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but also adding to our network in all 50 states. And if you didn't already know this, the Fi team provides a super supportive environment with one-on-one coaching, accountability, and ongoing training to help develop kick-ass, rock star, investor-friendly real estate agents. So hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, shoot me a DM, and we'll set up a time to chat. Can't wait to chat with you.
you're active duty. You have a full-time, W-2. You have multiple businesses and you're a realtor. How do you have time? Because you mentioned that you're the acquisitions portion of at least one partnership on the rental property investing business. How do you have time to find especially off-market deals? And what are you doing to find these off-market deals?
For off-market acquisition stuff, we do a lot of direct mail, and so I send out mailers to the long-term markets that we're in, and then I field the calls. And then if it's anything, I've got a contractor and a team in Indiana where we're investing, and so I have those guys go look at the property, or I'll kind of do a walkthrough even over the phone with the seller. And go from there.
So, what do these mailers say? How often are you sending them out? And how big of an area?
Yeah, so our Midwest market's a pretty small area, so we probably send out 400 to 500 a month, and then it's really honestly, I'm not on a really good timeline yet. It's kind of when we pull a deal when we know that we're getting close. We're able to start sending those out, and we just start sending out. And I'll buy on MLS in these areas as well, as long as the numbers make sense. And so we're always having a backup to buy on MLS where we may not be getting the best deal, but we're still getting a deal. And so I've always got the backup. But I would say, to answer your question, probably monthly we're sending 500 to 700.
Nice. Dang. And then how do you get them? What's on the mailer that gets them to call you?
This market that we're in doesn't have a lot of off-market acquisitions, so I actually get a lot of people that are like, "You want to buy my house? Why my house? Have you been here?" It's like, "Hey, and I just have to explain, like, we're looking for something in your neighborhood. I saw that you may be a potential seller, and going that route." But or we send out just regular prop stream. We want to buy your house, depending on the season and what I'm feeling. And we kind of if it's a foreclosure, we'll send out something that's more you know related to that. If it's just we'll send out a mailer that's similar to that. It's been working fairly well.
Nice. That's awesome.
So how many out of 700 deal mailers you're getting a send out a month? Like how many do you think actually net to a deal?
I've been pretty lucky in this market, and every time we've sent out, we've either had a deal that we've taken down or I have one that we're still working. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, and it's only just because it's not a huge investor market. It's my hometown, and so I kind of know the areas that are changing and the ones that we're trying to turn. I've got some friends, Mark and Tiffany, that are working to completely turn an entire neighborhood and make it kind of the place to be. And so I'm targeting that entire neighborhood just because I want to support their goals, and then I also think that there's going to be a ton, quote unquote, ton of appreciation for a Midwest market in that area.
Okay. Smart, smart. Awesome. And so I guess where does that take you? So that's kind of like what you're doing now, is what it sounds like. And you're doing that, and then as these deals come, you're gonna grab your partners, right? One of your partners based on like who's got the most capital, or how do you decide like what partner to go with?
With my long-term stuff, I've started kind of really going with one single partner on those, and that's because he's willing to bring the money and let me do the work, and then we split the equity. And I think that's a really good model because it's passive income for him essentially. And these numbers are crazy. So I can buy a house for 20 and I can put 30 into it, and then it's worth 80 to 90. And so those are the last two that we've done is that way. And so, he brings 50,000 to the table. I pay him 10% interest on his money while we're using it. And then once we burr out of the deal, if he leaves anything in it, then that money stays in there, and then he gets 50% equity. If we get lucky and he didn't, he still gets 50% equity because that's just how we structured it. And I say lucky, but like, if we work and we get the right deal, it doesn't leave anything in it, then instead of just paying him the 10% and cashing him out, I wanted to give him an incentive to continue partnering with me. And if we leave some money in it, I didn't want to leave my own, and so he was totally cool with the way that we're doing it. And I think that it's kind of motivated him as well to continue investing and growing and scaling. And so, we have those meetings where it's talking about what's next. And so right now, really our only kind of our only limiting factor is just contractor speed.
Hmm. Hmm. And so how do you go about? 'Cause it sounds like you're burrowing obviously in a cheaper market. And what market is this? Like, where are you at?
It's in Indiana, so it's Terre Haute, Indiana, around Indiana State University.
Okay. Okay. And so then, like, tell us a little bit about like how are you finding contractors and like while working remote, and how are you kind of like doing all this stuff, especially like again remote and contractors aren't the most reliable people as we know. So
Yeah, I interviewed a few. I kind of talked to some other investors in the area that I know, and when those guys, they everybody kind of keeps their contractors tight close. So you got to get some info out of those dudes and kind of pry. But I found a really good contractor that was willing to. He wanted to grow his team and he wanted to grow his business, and so he pretty much solely works for me these days. I keep him busy, so we're finishing a project actually today, and then on Thursday of this week. So for context, it's Tuesday. And Thursday, we're starting another project. And so I'm trying to completely just keep a deal flow going so that he always has something to do. And so he'll kind of stay loyal to our mission and our team.
awesome. Yeah, I have got a buddy. Have you ever thought about hiring him on a salary?
I have, we're just not at that point yet.
At that point, I got a buddy who did that, hired a contractor on salary, but then he actually ended up not loving it. Like he's like, honestly, he didn't like having the overhead,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
it wasn't worth it for him. So I guess when you do go do that, just make sure you're double checking all your numbers and making sure that it works.
Yeah, I think you have to have a lot more of a deal flow coming in to guarantee yourself, that guy is going to make his money. Essentially, he's going to earn it. And so if you don't have that, I mean, these guys, they may pick up a small job in between our projects and stuff, and that's fine uh, because we're giving him all the big jobs. So he makes sure that his guys are available when we need them.
For sure, for sure. Awesome, man. And so, I guess where does your kind of portfolio stand as of right now? Like, how many units do you have? What's your passive income look like? Would you say that you're financially free, or like if you were to leave the military today, you'd feel good about it? Or
I wouldn't say I'm financially free, and that's probably just because I live a little bougier of a lifestyle. I'm not the I'm not the finance like the FI guy that wants to, eat ramen to save. I work hard so that I wouldn't say play hard because we still save and we still are frugal to an extent, right? But like we built a beautiful house on the water. That was a big goal of mine was we live in Florida. It's like to have a house on the water and then to have, a nice boat. And those things are all paid for though through like my my passive income for the most part. I could cover those two bills specifically, but I actually enjoy like working in real estate and investing in real estate. So I think that I wouldn't stop even if I could, just because I like the idea of scaling. I'm not we got four short-term rentals and they all cash flow and I don't do anything. I would go insane. So I like the scaling aspect of it, and so I think I'll probably continue doing this until I retire from the military, maybe a few years after, and then we'll probably take that money that we're making in investment syndication, so that I'm still actively investing in real estate, but I'm also getting that passive, tax benefit.
100%.
I love that, like, one, you're an investor, so therefore you're an investor friendly agent, and you help others that are moving to the panhandle of Florida do the same thing in that market because everyone's numbers are different. So like you're into buying 20K properties, which is insane. And I love that for you. And some people are just like, moving to Florida. Like I know that I've sent you plenty of referrals that are moving out to like Pensacola or whatnot, looking to do the same thing, looking to house hack, looking to get started. And I don't know, I love that you can help a lot of people that way.
Yeah, I think if you have the knowledge and the reputation of doing it as an investor, that gives you a little more credibility when you're talking to someone because they know that you understand the numbers. And if, and you're not really just like winging it, right? You're not Google searching like how to run, numbers for an investment property and then calling yourself,
What is house hack?
like, yeah, let me get right back to you. And then you're like Googling it on your phone as you're talking to them. So no, but I think, yeah, I think that does help a lot. And then I kind of tiptoed around the question there, Greg, but we have 10 properties right now, an 11th being purchased, and then actually a 12th. We have two properties on the contract right now. We're closing on a new short-term rental on Smith Lake in Alabama, and then we have another long-term that we're closing in Indiana on Thursday. And so I have two closings Thursday, and that'll add two. We sold a quadplex recently that kind of dropped our door count, but it also increased our cash flow just because that property was kind of sucking a lot of our income. And so when we sold that, we 1031 it into two properties, so we went from four doors to two. But one's a short-term rental, one's a long-term rental, and we haven't had any issues with either.
How do you decide when to sell? Like when you're analyzing your properties and you realize one is taking more of your cash flow than, compared to the other properties, what metrics are you looking at to then say, yep, this means that we should just sell this property?
Yeah, so that deal was it was a quadplex, and the problem with that deal was that the water was not individually metered, and so we underwrote it at like $150 a month, and I had a $600 water bill, and so I literally had my cash flow on the property was about 500, and so it was like a net zero for a couple of months, and after it closed I sold it actually for sale by owner in the Indiana market. I sold it for sale by owner, but I paid an agent on the other side. And when she texted me the day after and she said, "Hey, did you know there were six people living in one of the one bedroom apartments?" And I said, "No, but that explains my water bill." And so they had to evict those people. And I guess somebody had sublet it to like five homeless guys. And so they were all just like living there, off of whatever income they had or whatever. And apparently just love to take showers or something. So our bill was, yeah, $600. And so, but I would say to answer that question, it really just comes down to like paying attention to the numbers and just not getting married to like your door count is, like a lot of people try to say like, oh, I've got 27 doors. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But do those doors make you money? Are those doors bleeding dry? Like, you don't have to prove your quote unquote, investor net worth with how many doors you have. It's more how much, those doors are making you. And then even, your time comes into effect, right? Too, right? If like you're still making good money on it, but also you're spending a lot more time than you should on that property, is it really worth keeping? Or should you, sell that?
At the end of the day, like all of those comparative metrics, whether it be cash flow or doors or assets under management or whatever it is ultimately it's just a measuring stick. And I think people get really caught up in this measuring stick thing that like it doesn't add any happiness to your life. Like why are you investing in real estate? It's to be happy. And so if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, then you're just never going to be happy. Like they say comparison is the thief of joy. And so
Mhm.
rather than even care about how many units you have or how much cash flow you have, I think it's a way better thing just to be like, how happy are you? Like, are you content in your situation? Are you looking to grow it? Or are you not? And yeah, it's a little like, I mean, I know I asked the question just because people are curious, but frankly, like, I don't care how many units you have. I don't care how much cash flow you have. It's just like, are you coming in with a smile on your face? And that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, because we may be making, $70,000 a year in cash flow between all of our properties, but then you split that between partnerships. Now you're like 35. Like, I don't think that one, I couldn't live on that if I wanted to, but two, that's not why I do it. I do it for the future, and I do it because I want to be able to do it, like to be able to do what I want when I retire from the military.
Hmm. Exactly
In
right.
2028, right? Yeah.
Allie's
So
like, we
what?
better 2028. I'm pushing you on that. Yeah.
Dude, Caleb and I have been friends, and I'm like, Caleb, leave. The military is holding you back. Yeah, but he'll stay, and that's fine. I guess I give him permission to stay in the military. That retirement's going to be nice. So, what does the future look like for you? Like, you're going to continue, are you going to find other partners to invest with as well, or just continue, doing what you're doing now? Because you're busy enough now as it is. But what else do you have in store?
Yeah, so I think really what I want to do, I would like to, and I'm working on this now, is kind of scaling back a lot of the active income that I have and being able to, like, we're building a pretty big real estate team here in Pensacola, investment team, and I'm starting to send out a lot more, going the alley method and sending out a lot more referrals and letting those guys work those deals, and then still working the buyers that I want to buy, and but or that I'm going to sell to. But I think my goal this year is to scale the businesses and automate a lot of the business so that I can kind of more focus on my family. And I'm getting married this year, and so that's going to take up a lot of, I would say, like my bandwidth, right? And I want to make sure that I'm a good husband and a good father. And so 2022, I sold 45 houses while being on active duty, and I just didn't sleep. And so, and I was
Damn.
constantly, yeah, working to automate and that. And so I think if I can do that, when I can scale that and automate a lot of it, then I'll be able to meet my goals.
Yeah. So what's the first step? Like when you say automate, what do you plan on? What are you going to do to automate it?
Yep. So we've kind of already done that. We started hiring out a lot of our administrative tasks and a lot of our transaction coordination stuff. Instead of doing those things, they say evaluate your income per hour and then start hiring out the things that you can hire out for cheaper, right? So, for instance, a lot of people are like, you don't cut your own grass. I'm like, no, because the 3 hours it would take me to do my lawn, that's $450 an hour, or $150 an hour that I'm making. If I'm not showing
Yeah.
houses at that point and I'm filling under contract, that is more income there versus sitting at home and cutting my grass.
1000%.
Yeah, and building out those systems, right? Those systems are, I keep saying that, but building out the spreadsheets that you can automate and you can just, put the numbers into that makes sense, and then, teaching and training your assistants and training your partners on certain tasks that take a lot of your time, where they can kind of take over some of those things if you need to do something bigger and a little more important for the business. I think that's the way that I'm going to scale this year.
Of that, yeah, either automate or outsource, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
like you've got all your systems in place, and that's kind of how systems are created, by either automating or outsourcing. And that way you could do more of the higher level stuff, which, may not even be analyzing deals. It may just be trying to establish connections for partnerships, right? If you want to do more partnerships and stuff like that. So, um, awesome, man. Well, hey, I think your story is, it's pretty amazing, right? I think it's clearly you're a busy dude, right? But like you're also not, you're still living like a good life, right? You got a house on the water, you got your boat, your wife or your soon to be wife is happy. And I think that's like really what the most important metric there is, like all the other stuff that's not money. And of course you're in the military, so thank you both for your service. And we appreciate all that you do. And yeah, man. Like I think it's great. And now that we kind of know what's next, I guess we should probably head into the final part of the show. But before we do, Caleb, is there any other words of wisdom you want to leave us with?
No, not really. I think
Yeah, no wisdom.
just no,
Yeah,
I don't know,
just
like
words.
Just
Yeah,
action. Just
I'm
action.
kind of
words.
seeing,
Yeah.
like just hustle hard and hire out as much as you can, and you'll be able to scale. Find partners that you trust and find partners that you're willing to work with. And that's the key to my success, if you can call it success. And that's where I'm at.
hmm hmm Yeah, for sure. I love that, man. All right, Ellie, you know what time it is?
It is time for
For the
the
final
final
The final four.
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 Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah.
Allie, kick us
All
off.
right. So, question number one: what are you reading right now, if you even have time to read, Caleb?
So I'm doing the hybrid, like read the book and then listen to the audiobook while I'm driving. And that's the
Mm,
book Traction. So I'm reading Traction. I've listened to it, I've
so
read
good.
through it once, but now that we're really trying to scale and to really build these businesses the right way, I'm reading it again. So are a couple of my business partners as well.
That's such a good book, and it's actually like right here on my table to reread again. The biggest thing that I took from that book is that every person needs to have a number. Like everyone needs to know what their number is, whether it's like number of calls that you need to make every day as a realtor or number of, just like attempts to anything. Like you can assign every single person in your business a number as long as they get that number, your business is going to be rolling just fine. I love that book.
Yeah, I think that what I've really taken from that book is the roles and responsibilities, and then really having a set core values and a set goals that everybody is privy of, and then using that to really mesh the team together.
100%. 100%. All right, Caleb, what is the best piece of advice you ever received?
I would say recently, probably the best quote, I think Bill Allen said it in a mastermind that I was in, that you can't scale a broken business. And that's kind of why I started reading Traction again. And I realized that a lot of the stuff that we were doing, like one, we got lucky in the market, and two, I just wasn't setting the systems up. I was too fat. I was working too much and like growing too quickly that I didn't have everything set up the right way. And so now I'm kind of taking a step back. I probably won't do as many deals this year, but I'm building those systems out the right way so that, 2024, 2025, we're not still drowning in the work. We're actually, doing less and making more and scaling faster.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how all business is, though, right? It's like, okay, like you grow, and then you realize that you can't handle the growth, so then you take a step back and you build your systems, and then you outgrow those systems, and then you're like, all right, let's take a step back and grow. So it's just constant this like 2 step forward, 1 step back thing. It's not really a back. You're building a better foundation to then grow your business higher and bigger. But I just think that's like it's a fun cycle, I guess, to be part of. You have to just recognize that when you're in it, that it's okay that you're not going to do as many deals in 23 than you did in 22, but you're setting yourself up to do twice as many deals in 24 than you did in 22, right? So
Question number 3. So going deeper here, what is your why?
My why is going to be I'll just read it to create a real estate portfolio that allows me the freedom to work as little or as much as I please after my military retirement without sacrificing my quality of life. And so I keep that up on my computer so that I remember that. And that is really my why. So, being able to do what I want when I want, I'll still do things. I'm not going to be, the guy that's retired at 35 or retired at 40. I don't want to be. I want to still do it, but I want to do it on my time. And I want to do it on my family's time. So, or, have time with my family so that I've done a lot of sacrificing with my family over the last 10 years being in the military, or 17 years total, but the last probably 8 years has really been in special operations. I've been gone I just hit over 50% of my son's birthdays. I've been home for finally, and he's almost 14. And so, I want to be able to take that time and give that back to him later.
I love that.
all right, man. Last question. Have you ever been arrested?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, have you really?
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
All right, tell us the story, dude. That was a shot in the dark.
Oh, man. I'm like telling this to an MFI agent, though. This is,
Hey,
so,
I'm out. And I didn't like it, so you're good.
so my mom actually found a water bong in my bedroom and took me to the juvenile and said, I want my son arrested.
A water bottle?
A water bong, like
Oh,
a water bong.
Your
And
mom?
your
so
mom did?
yeah, and so I got put in juvenile for like 3 days for that, and then and I got arrested as a runaway one time too. So I was a troubled child, and the military is and honestly the military is what set me straight. So I didn't tell my recruiter those things. So hopefully after 17 years of being in, the statute of limitations is gone. But yeah.
Wow. So wait, okay, this is a stupid question by someone who maybe hasn't been arrested or definitely hasn't been arrested. What is a runaway?
Oh, so I was I was a minor and I ran away from home.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't really know it. Yeah, so I got put in juvenile for that too. And so it was a fun time, but single mom, I was a tough kid, and I think I was bored. I made good grades in school even when I was being a troublemaker, but uh, it was only because I knew that I didn't want to, have to work some manual labor job or work at McDonald's. I wanted to do something with my life, later. And so that was kind of, but I definitely was, I was hanging with the wrong people and doing the wrong things at a very young age. I think I was like 14 when that happened. So
Wow. Well, what's funny is that the first thing you told us is that you invest in the cannabis industry. And so, some things are still there, right? So some things you're still bullish on. Um, yeah, it's funny, man. Honestly, I did not know your history, and so I was kind of surprised when you said yes, because the follow up would have been like, if not, what would you have gotten arrested for? But anyway, I mean, well, I guess last question, real question, kind of sort of, is where can people find out more about you if they want to hear more about your story or you know look you up in the city records.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, just find my mugshot. I don't actually have a mugshot. Oh, that would be so embarrassing. Um, so you can find me on Instagram at Drake_08, Draco, or you can find me at Caleb.Drake at exprealty.com. Or you can find us we host a real estate meetup here in Pensacola every third Thursday of the month called Pints and Properties, and you can find us there at Doc's Hop Shop in downtown.
Nice.
Awesome. Caleb, thanks for so much for coming on, man, sharing your story. It's inspiring. And again, thank you for all that you do for the country and for your family and all that stuff. And yeah, man, good to put a face to the name, and we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, hopefully. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And that was Caleb Drake. Miss Allie Garcet. What do you think about Caleb?
Oh, you mean Caleb the criminal?
Caleb the criminal.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
Can't believe we had him even
Man.
on the show. We're promoting. What is the what is the word? Vagabonds? Is that the right word? I don't know.
I don't know.
Heathens. He's a heathen.
Heathens.
Yeah.
No, I love his style of doing and then fixing, rather like implementing and then realizing, hey, my systems need some tweaking. Let me take it a step back. Let me work on those systems to then just catapult yourself even further down the road. A lot of people get stuck at that where they think they need all their systems built out. They need the perfect operating agreement. They need the perfect mailer before just send a mailer, see what happens. And then just tweak along the way. So I like that he is doing instead of just, analyzing forever.
Yeah, I used to be the guy that would try to build all the systems before we even had a process or before we even went through it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm so prepared. I'm gonna just put it through the system, and then I forget the system exists. It just was not exactly what I needed. It didn't work the way it needed to, and I ended up just redoing it anyway. And so I'm always just just do a deal, right? And then figure out your systems, right? Close the deal as a real estate agent, close the deal as an investor, close the deal. And then you figure out, okay, this is something that seems like a repetitive task that's going to take a lot of my time. This is the highest priority thing that we need to system. And then you just figure out your systems one by one going down that way. And eventually, if you create a new system every month, in probably 18 months, you'll have a pretty passive business. Because I don't think most, you just need a few different systems to really make it work.
Yeah, definitely. And people think systems and kind of, get overwhelmed just by that word. It doesn't have to be crazy. It could be, this is worst case scenario. It could be handwritten or on a chalkboard. If you're still using chalk, I don't know why I said chalk, but it could be as easy as that. Step 1, this is how I find, and this is what to say in the mailer. Step 2, this is how often I'm going to mail it. Just, start there. And then over time, you don't have to jump right into Asana and Monday and all these more complicated technologies. Just put what's in your head onto paper. And that's step 1 of building a business.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is a good analogy, maybe it's not, but the human body, which is probably the most complex organism out there, has 10 systems. Any business that you run is not going to be as complex as the human body. And so likely it's going to, if you can get let's just say 10 or 8, you'll be able to easily automate your business that way and do it in the way that's the most painful. You take the most painful and most repetitive things out first, the lowest dollar per hour tasks out first. For Caleb, it sounded like mowing the lawn was a part of his life he didn't want to do. And so, yeah, he could pay someone maybe 100, I don't know how big his yard is, maybe $100 or so to mow his lawn. And he would much rather be prospecting or maybe going on his boat, right? And that's better time spent for him. And I couldn't agree more. Get somebody to mow your lawn. That's Does someone mow your lawn? Allie, what do you do with your lawn maintenance?
So remember, we live in Arizona. We don't even have
Oh, there's no
grass.
lawns.
So at least,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we do have some weeds, but we got rocks, and I love rocks now.
Who waters your rocks?
Nobody, not even God.
How do they grow?
I don't know. The weeds just do pop up though. But yeah,
Yeah.
when you're doing a full-time job and you're investing in real estate and you're selling 45 homes a year, you have to have some businesses. So I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm excited to see where he's at too. I think it's going to be really exciting to see where he's at when he is at scale, graduated from the military, and yeah, just living that good life. Allie, anything else you want to say before we head off for the week?
Nothing. This was a great episode, and I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, great episode. I loved it. And if you haven't already, make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, leave us that rating and review, and we will see you all next week.
See ya.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.